Maybe I need to do that. Ah, there we go. Great. And we're all right. I'll mute that one too. Okay, cool. All right. First technical hurdle. Turn the mic on. Anyway, I hope you're all good Wednesday night. Anyone who jumps in, please put in the chat where are you from. And what are you working on? I have done a couple of these last year in 2025, and just really think that in 2026, with all of the AI that's in the news, that seems like it's disrupting us, this is the one area where AI cannot currently compete. AI can't do a live stream, can't respond to your questions quickly with a video response. Now, that may come in time, but for now, this is another way of me being authentic and real and showing up for you. But also, I want to get to know some of the people who watch my videos and help you out in a way that maybe my content doesn't, like to be able to ask your questions and respond to you and figure out ways in which to get to know what the bigger issues in the community are, because I do speak to quite a lot of creatives on a regular basis and come across the issues that they're dealing with and the things that they're unpacking, and we'll go into some of those this evening as well, I think, a little bit. But just to get started and to get into it, yesterday I was watching a Pat Flynn video, and he was suggesting this exact thing. He was suggesting to get live in front of your audience and show up and show them that you're real, show them that you're not an AI bot, and that you're genuinely who you are. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I started thinking through what time or day of the week could I make that work on, what would be useful for my audience, what's not going to get in the way of family life, so I have to like move it or change it. So I thought I'd try this time. We'll see if people show up. We'll see if it's useful. And I know that it's also going to take time to get some traction. But I woke up at 3 a.m. going, do I need a second camera? Should I set up another mic? Should I do an overhead shot? Should I be working on some music? Should I make a pre-roll for the video? Should I have a soundtrack playing underneath it? Should I have music going? Even my own music. And my brain was just whirring and whirring. And I just think that's one of the ways in which, as creatives, we stop ourselves. That overthinking, that processing and trying to figure out all of the things all at once, I think is deeply unhelpful. And I do think that it's one of the first forms of procrastination and perfectionism that we encounter. We're trying to make everything perfect. How can I get it perfect before I even start? And I think that's a little bit of a shame to be thinking that way, because it does, while we think we're being expansive in our thinking, we're actually adding more and more roadblocks to getting us there. So originally I thought, oh, maybe it is on Thursday night, but at 8 o'clock on Thursday, like I go for a run with a buddy from 7 to 8 every Thursday. And I was like, okay, well, I could skip my run, but then I couldn't consistently skip my run. And I was like, well, maybe if I did it a little bit later. But I also run the parallel play sessions with creatives from all over the world on Thursday afternoon. So if I'm going to do that, then make dinner, then go for a run, then come back, then do this, will I really be energized and ready and up for it? And I'd like to say yes, because I want to show up for the community of people that are watching my videos here on YouTube. But also, I think it's important to understand that for it to be something that I can do regularly, it needs to be at a time where it's just going to fit in. And I'm not entirely sure that's going to fit in here on a Wednesday night, because my son just came back from a guitar lesson. We just had dinner, so I didn't have an awful lot of leeway. So we'll see. Might push it back by half an hour or an hour. But then again, I don't want to be too late for those of you who are in Europe. I know there's quite a few people in Central European time, because I've worked with people in France and Italy and Switzerland. So just to make sure that we're not keeping up late, because while the creative spirits burn at both ends of the days, I also think that it's super important for us to be getting our rest and being refreshed for our day ahead. So running this too late isn't really on the cards. But same thing, I've got people that I work with in Colorado and in San Diego. Someone who works who's in Melbourne in Australia. So this time probably doesn't suit them at all. Now, I haven't even checked the time in Melbourne. Let me do that. Not that it's hugely important. 7 a.m. I mean, given a push, we could get them on. We'll see. Anyway, so it's really just trying to find the balance of what works for me, but also what's going to work for people who want to watch and want to interact. So it would be great to hear where you're listening and watching in from. Yeah, and then we'd get into like some of the things that you're working on, and then maybe some of the areas that you're stuck. And let's try to unpack what that looks like. Just a couple of things that I see creatives being held back by. Obviously, the first one I mentioned is the overthinking and that perfectionism. But then also think, I've covered this a few times on the channel, but the idea of like project shame, like that spiral that we have of having multiple started projects, maybe even decades of started projects that all get abandoned at a certain point. I've worked with quite a few people who get started and then get tripped up. But I also work with people who put out lots and lots of work, and right at the very end, they're like, well, I've got this thing finished, but the idea of actually putting it out into the world, and that's where they get blocked. So the piece is 99% finished, and they constantly tripping themselves up at the very end because they're like, well, I don't have to stand up in front of a crowd and talk about this. I don't, want to have to make social media content to push this, or I don't want to work with some sort of like schedule or plan around those things. And also all of those things are new and out of our comfort zone. And I think it's also okay to be like, hey, I don't have expertise in this area. So that's the reason why, actually naming it and saying that's the reason why I'm being held back. But I do think that's where we need to build community and support and people around us that can help us to get to a place where we're engaged and moving forward, but we're supported because there are lots of people who can help. And interestingly, I was actually talking to a good friend of a really good friend of mine, and she's based in Colorado, and she was talking about the fact that she's neurodivergent, and her skill set is really focused on execution. She's like, I never come up with good ideas, but I am so laser focused on execution. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm the complete opposite. I look around and I see problems that need solving, and I instantly think we could try this, or we could try this, or we could try this. And not just that, but I'm also thinking up new musical projects or ways to run a venue or an event or a night. And I absolutely get stuck at that hurdle of, oh, how would I execute on that? Or I don't know enough people to do, so I really think there is a point in pulling people together and having people alongside who can get engaged and support your cause. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily buying from you, or that they're supporting you financially, but maybe they're lending their skill set. And when things pick up and become profitable, maybe they come on board as a paid member of staff, or it's a barter system, which is a great way in which I think creatives and hippies are already working and sharing their resources and their skill set. I've got a comment. Hey, super. Elias, on paper, the definition of making it successful architect who builds skyscrapers. Congratulations. But in my eyes, they are as hollow and empty as an empty construction site. I'd love to hear more about that. Can you tell us where you're based, Elias? And what do you think would need to change for your work to feel like it's got more heart and soul? Like that just spitballing, that could potentially be the fact that to build a skyscraper is not a one-man job. You're working for a client who has a vision and an idea. Then you also have to hit, engineering boundaries and kind of city limits and kind of national building and safety regulations. So I can imagine a lot of the joy is pulled out of it in terms of doing that. I wonder if you were given unlimited scope and unlimited budget, and or maybe you need it the other way around. Maybe you need it to be, what one small thing would you build that you could put your heart and soul into and really have a stamp of the Elias architecture brand? Or is there another area of artistic endeavor that you're, passionate about? Definitely think that there's often there are other ways in which we come across that. I used to do a lot of. I started getting into photography. The picture behind me here is a photo I took because I was getting into food photography and product photography, and really starting to enjoy it. Really starting to develop a skill set, and people were recognizing here in Dublin. No one's taking photos like that. Would you come and work with us? Will you work with my brand? Will you work with my restaurant? And it was lovely to hear that. But I think after a while, I was kind of getting to a similar place as well and going, I'm spending my creativity. Well, sorry, I won't assume I got to a similar place, but I felt like I was spending my creativity to make other people's visions become a reality and not really engaging mine. I was building a great skill set and, kind of building technical skills and building relationships with people. And I was just like, do I really have the energy investment to build this to a place where it could be a complete career for me? Because I really was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to get to the place where I could be a commercial photographer and do a handful of big shoots a year for major Irish, European, or global brands. And I was like, how long would that take me to build to that skill set? How would I network that? And ultimately, I kept tripping over the fact that I was spending my creativity to see other people's visions come about. And I think there's ways in which I've done that in the past that I've really enjoyed, as in partnering with a director and a producer to write music for video. Really enjoyed that. Really felt that was an interesting collaboration. And I also think there's something about actually having your name on the credits as well. And I'm sure the architect's name is, on the plans and submitted to the city hall, and it's well recognized. But and vice versa, I've also had people who've made music, and I've also then shot videos and visuals for those, and that was just an interesting collaboration, because I think there was a big element of being allowed to express myself and express my creativity in that. And yes, there was a back and forth, there's a negotiation, but it generally felt like it was, yeah, an interesting creative journey. I don't see any update on that, but anyone else who's watching, love to hear where you're watching from, and also like what are you working on, or maybe where are you stuck? Do you have any questions that I can answer? Love to help with that. I think one of the other things I kind of wanted to hit was the fact that maybe pivoting is too strong a word, because recently I have come to the conclusion that I have been living with ADHD my whole life. If I put it up in one of my recent videos, and my son was going for diagnosis, and he'd been previously been diagnosed. Like this is something we've known for 4 years, and I just came to, being in the room listening to the developmental psychologists kind of asking questions like, oh, all of this sounds so familiar. Oh, wow. And then coming and unpacking that for myself in my own life and starting to understand the ways in which it meant that, maybe I wasn't able to focus at school. Maybe I wasn't able to, and then that focus meant that I wasn't doing great in my exams and tests kind of later on. Like I was naturally intelligent and able to just kind of get by. But then when it really came to exams that took an awful lot more work, that I was like really flailing around and not doing good because I hadn't learned the skill set to be able to adapt to that. It was literally just the pressure of, hey, there's an exam tomorrow. Let's go. But I just think that there's a chance. I see in the chat there, yeah, and no need to be sorry there, Elias. I would like to hear more of like where you're at and what projects you would love to get involved in. Like I think that'll be helpful to nail down what it is you're interested in and kind of where you're going with that. Just let me have a quick drink. Anyway, back to that. But also what's been really interesting to me is a huge chunk of the people that I've been working with would also be neurodiverse. And maybe it's because of the way I've kind of built out my channel and I've intentionally said, hey, this is not about productivity or productivity theater, but it's also because it's an opportunity to talk outside of the box, outside of what are the kind of perceived norms and norms that we've picked up from at work or school or from society. And I'm very much happy to fly that flag. And I think that's the reason why I have attracted an audience of quite a few people who go, oh, that makes an awful lot more sense to me than, necessarily time boxing and, using the standard productivity tools. Because I've just found over time that they don't work for me. I've tried them all because one didn't work. I was like, oh, maybe there's another. And because the world revolves around like zero inbox, or especially color coding your calendar or whatever or bullet journaling, whatever the de rigueur standard is for productivity. I've just found none of those things have ever really landed. And, I get that. And look, that's just the way it is. But I do think that it is an opportunity to step into something and help people who really want to focus and really want to get good work done and good work out there. And I have a personal thesis, absolutely no scientific background, but from lots of the creatives that I know personally, relationally, and have worked with, that I think there's probably a high proportion of people who have some level of neurodivergence, because they've learned to live within a wild system, that doesn't suit them, and therefore their expression and their creativity can often come across as different, and it can be appreciated and enjoyed is a way by people who go, well, I don't understand how that could be made, which I also find really intriguing, that I meet people who are like, I don't get how you would, take two disparate ideas and be able to put them together, and often multiple disparate ideas, like that we've combed our creative and inspirational appetite, we've distilled it down, and we're able to come up with something that's interesting and beautiful at the far end. So I just think that there's there's an interesting piece to how the creative minds work and how they kind of ultimately output. So I totally get that. So I'm just keeping an eye on chat here as well. Not entirely sure what's going on. Another thing that I've kind of been unpacking, and if you're on my email list, you'll have seen this idea that, I don't think your creativity is broken. I think it's lonely. A lot of the people that I'm talking to are feeling isolated. The middle of last year, I released a creative locator quiz, and it's just a place in which you can go and answer a few questions, and then get an idea of where you can land in a kind of gamut of creativity, whether you're stuck, whether you're kind of feeling like a trapped professional, all sorts of different areas that it kind of unpacks, and a huge majority of people put down the fact that they're feeling isolated, that they're feeling kind of aside and outside of their creative realms. And I think that's really common in this day and age. Like if you're not an art student in school, and you're not surrounded by a community, then you really have to work hard to like make sure that you are surrounded by people. It takes energy and it takes effort. One of the things that I've been doing recently here in Dublin is there's a group for hardware electronic musician aficionados called Bloop Group, and they meet up every month, and that's where I've been going and playing with my music out. But it's also a really supportive group. We have a WhatsApp group, and there's always chat going on there. Like I often have to mute it. It's distractingly busy, but it's fun and it's engaging and it's encouraging, and it's just nice to have a sense of people you could talk to or ask questions to or engage with. So I think that's super helpful to go into. I do think with the power of the internet, whether it's Discord, I do think there's lots of places you can go, and there's so many niches, lots of places you can go that serve your niche and serve the area that you are working in. So I would really encourage you to try and find some support locally or internationally on Discord. And same thing, that's part of why I'm here, is wanting to serve, and wanting to like offer hope and kind of help to people that are out there. Alas, I hear you. Alas has just come back and said, I was a dreamer when I started building. I love that. It's a beautiful statement. I would suggest you're probably still a dreamer. So let's not overthink that. and I'd love to hear some of the things that you would dream up for yourself, without the limitations of budget or engineering or kind of city planning. Because I imagine there's some beautiful, interesting, and things you could put out there, solving unique problems in unique ways. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I can see why not being able to innovate is a big deal. Yeah, I can understand that. Just need to get you some space to do that. Maybe you need to go smaller, or start planning Elon's Mars colony for him and innovate there. That's crazy at their idea, but yeah, start use your architecture in game design to create worlds that couldn't possibly exist without being limited to the Earthbound rules. Okay, and just to back to the point I was talking about the idea that your creativity isn't broken, it's lonely. For the past month, and even back in September, we were running kind of co-working, co-creating calls that we call Parallel Play. It's like body doubling, but it's just a chance to jump on a call. I'll put the link in the chat and then in the description, but we run them on a Thursday afternoon, and we're going to keep going in March. Maybe try and figure out another time we can do it as well. We were doing it on Tuesday, but Tuesday morning, not many people were showing up. So we want to try find a time that works as well. So we'll definitely keep the Thursdays one going, as they're popular, and there's quite a few people joining in tomorrow. It'd be great to have you coming along. And if you're on my email list, you'll have heard of Roisin, who came to join us. She absolutely loved the opportunity to jump in on the call, and she's been trying to make it for a few weeks, but now she made it along last week, and honestly, in an hour and a half, 2 hours, she got through 4 or 5 things on her to-do list. She was trying to prep some space to get out to her garden studio and have a handyman come out and finish off some work out there so she could get out and do some work. She'd been putting off sending an email to some people about some potential work, potential source of income, and she turned around when she got those things out of the way and started working on a painting that was up on the wall as well. So it was so cool to see her being able to step into getting at some admin things out of the way so that she could then get creative. And she was like, "Oh, it's taken me ages to even get around to them, and when I started, it really didn't take that long at all." So that was very cool to be able to hear that and see the journey. Anyone else who's watching, please let me know where you're watching from, and is there anything that you're currently connecting to or struggling with? But just wanted to put an invite out there to feel free to come and join the Parallel Play sessions. At the moment, we're running them every week on a Thursday, and we'll continue it on a Thursday at 3 p.m. Dublin time. So it's just a chance to work with alongside other creators. It's not really a chat. We have a little kind of hello and what's going on at the start, and then we jump into just working by ourselves. It's really just a chance to be accountable and share what we're going to work on. And there's just something about having somebody else there on the call and knowing that, oh, I shouldn't pick up my phone, or I actually need to focus on the thing because I said I'm going to do it. So it's really empowering. It feels motivating and strangely freeing having other people just on a call. So it's kind of cool. Okay, well, we're already at 30 minutes, and unless there's any more questions or comments in the chat, I actually think I'm going to wrap it up. But just to let you know that I'm hoping to do this every week, and maybe get some more questions and some more engagement and get to know a few more of you. So thank you so much to Real Raxus and Bob Droid in the chat for your comments. Appreciate it. And be great to have you come and join our parallel play sessions if you can. Give me 1 second, let me find you a link for that. And I'll put it in the chat. Okay, here's the parallel play. You can book in here. And then let me find you the quiz. Why did I hide it so far away? Okay, here we go. If you want to take a quiz, which is a creative locator. So it'll help you kind of figure out where you're stuck, what things that you're focused on. And if you do fill it in, I'll get back to you with the personalized recommendation of what are two or three things you could do this week to help you to move the needle on getting your art rolling and getting you back to being productive and getting focused on the way forward. So love to hear from you. Feel free to sign up for either of those. All right. Thanks for joining me, and we'll try this again next week. All right. Peace out. Take care. Bye.